Welcome to hell. The Telegraph newspaper report that new harassment rules on the edge of becoming law will enable medics to sue the NHS if a patient insults them. It will allow bar staff to take legal action against landlords if they're offended by a drunk punter. And it will allow baristas to, in a coffee shop, take the owners to a tribunal if they overhear offensive remarks made by customers. Well, this madness offends me deeply. This story comes hot off the heels of a report in the Sun newspaper in February suggesting pub bosses are now so worried about this new law they could have to hire banter bouncers to police boozy chats under proposed laws. Rules to protect workers from being harassed may give them the right to sue if jokes or comments they hear offend them. An update to the Equalities Act aims to stop people getting abused at work. They would argue workers have no choice but to go to work and therefore they need and deserve protection from hateful conduct by patrons. Rubbish. All this does is pile extra rules, costs and bureaucracy onto bosses who will have to become agents of state censorship. Ultimately, it will leave punters in the pub unable to shout at the telly or crack a naughty joke without putting landlords at risk of being sued by upset staff. It sounds made up, doesn't it? But it's real. The government overplayed their hand during the pandemic, micromanaging our lives and even deciding our movements. Well, now they want to micromanage what we think and what we say. It all represents what George Orwell famously described as the thought police, creating a grim dystopia so censorious it would have the North Koreans blushing. Cancel culture has reached its nadir when you can't make an edgy remark in a public setting without having your collar felt. The United Kingdom, supposedly the home of liberal democracy and free speech, has completely lost its way with this mad new legislation. The idea that this won't lead to a flurry of long and excruciating tribunals and court cases is naive at best. There are scores of fragile snowflakes who will seize upon their right not to be offended and who will happily drag their employers through the courts for a remark that they may have heard, that they didn't like, which wasn't even aimed at them. When is this madness going to end? In Scotland, the SNP's delightful new leader, Humza Yousaf, drafted so-called hate crime legislation in Scotland, which opened the door to your possible arrest for saying something offensive at home in the privacy of your own four walls. Well, in England and Wales, we now face that same threat in a hospital setting, in our local boozer, or even when we're chugging a latte in Starbucks or Costa. The government must think again. It's time to wake up and smell the coffee.